Well, now we've reached the end of our case study response, okay, and we're at the conclusion, okay, so what are we going to put in the conclusion? Okay, now, in our discussions here today, what we've been focusing on is a paper that's 5 pages in length. Obviously, as you go forward in your career, both educationally and professionally, you're going to have longer papers than that. But in the final analysis, the conclusion should be very brief, okay? It should be very short, very concise. Okay? You could have an enormous paper, enormous document that you present, and the conclusion is going to still be very short and concise, because you know what? If you've done your job, so to speak, in the analysis and in the research, the person's already been led to a given conclusion. Okay? You've said many times this is what they should be doing based on the results of the research that you found and the facts as presented in the case. So, as a matter of course, the conclusion is going to be very short and concise. What is its function? It's summing up the research and the facts, okay? Because you're saying, this is the only outcome. Now, you might want to leave yourself a little wiggle room, okay? You have to understand what your environment is that you're working in, and there might be one outcome that is preeminent, okay? There might be other outcomes that might also be out there, okay? And you could say that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying a sentence, there are a myriad of possible outcomes in this situation, however, the most likely and most appropriate one is blah, okay? You're leaving yourself a little wiggle room. Okay? You're not being imperious by saying, I decree that this is the only outcome. What you're saying is, no, I did my research and this is the one that I think is most appropriate. Okay? So, in that thought process, right, when you think about it, if you're saying this is the outcome, you want to be very short because you're just summing up what leads the person to that conclusion. Okay? And if when you think about it, and yes, there's a certain repetition that goes on here. They read the executive summary and they go, okay, this is where this person is going. And then you told them the issue, and they said, yeah, okay, that's the issue. And you led them to the facts. Now, the well's primed, so to speak, from the executive summary. And they sit there saying, yeah, these facts, I can see how they reached that conclusion. Yeah, okay. And then you get to the analysis where you say to them, the reader, okay, here's the research that's relevant. Right? As they read that, again, the well's been primed already with the executive summary. They're saying, okay, yeah, that research is reinforcing what I already heard. And yeah, it's correct. Okay? And then when you do your application of the research to the facts, now it's really reinforced, right? Okay? So by the time you get to the conclusion, it's a fait accompli. Okay? And that's one of the foundations on a certain level, okay? When you think of a case study as an article that you might read in the newspaper, in the newspaper industry, they always say, you must say it 3 times so that the reader gets it and understands it. Okay? So we're literally saying it 3 times to the reader. You're saying it the first time in the executive summary, okay? And then you're reinforcing it with the facts and then an analysis that reinforces the facts based on the research. So by the time you get to the conclusion, right, the person's really kind of had it drilled into their head, and you don't want to become, shall we say, heavy-handed or unnecessarily redundant, right? So it has the same rules of brevity, so to speak, that we saw with the executive summary. Okay? Now, practice tip. Okay? Once you've done your research, okay, your research in your own mind is going to lead you to a given conclusion, right? So it could be very useful on a certain level after you've framed the issue, and you've done your research. You haven't written the analysis yet. You haven't written the facts yet, but to write a rough draft of the conclusion, saying, okay, this is where we're going to end up, okay? Because in the same way that the issues, framing the issue forces you to look for certain facts and for certain research, the conclusion, by drafting it, forces you to say, okay, this is the facts now that are relevant to that conclusion and that issue. This is the research that is relevant to this conclusion as well as that issue. Okay? So it really brings the paper together. Okay? So that's why I say, you might want to write the issue first, you might want to write the conclusion second, and then the rest of the paper flows from there. Okay? It's the same thing also that, when you think about it, okay, if you were writing a mystery novel, the executive summary kind of is the dust jacket of it, but all of us, when we read a mystery novel, we kind of jump to the end. Well, that's how a lot of writers write it, right? They write the end, right? But then they're writing the rest of the paper that gets them there. Okay, so that's what I say, or I suggest. shouldn't say say, that's what I suggest you would want to do. You write the conclusion first. So now we've gone through the full spectrum, so to speak, of how do you do a case study response. Okay, we've got our content, there was a blueprint where there were guidelines and rules, and now we've done each section ending with the conclusion. Okay? This is the process that we use, and as you can see, when we started out, you can see how now using the case study method, where we're following this format, following this procedure, you can understand that now we can all use it as an educational tool where each one of us is able to, working from the same set of facts, maybe seeing different issues though, but working from the same set of facts, being able to have an effective educational as well as professional interaction about the circumstances presented in the case study. So that is the case study method. Okay? Now, the next series of lectures as we go forward with the class are going to be an examination or application of the case study method, as well as a discussion of what's in the individual chapters. And I'll see you there soon. Thank you.